So it's been 17 years since Doom was released. It's kind of funny that we've never done a post-mortem anywhere on this game, which is kind of crazy. But now we are here to do it. And so what we're going to do is kind of go through the development of the game on a month-by-month basis. We're actually going to start about a year before we started on Doom to kind of foreshadow some things in the future. Okay, there's a little bit of volume. Okay, so we'll start in December of 1991. Actually, it wasn't December, was it? It was like
anyway.
It's like
as far as you know, this is December.
It's August 1991, and we moved id Software to Madison, Wisconsin,
where I went to college.
And we visited in the midsummer, and the place was great, just like that picture there. It was
awesome, lush green, everyone having fun.
So then we moved the whole company, which was only 4 people at that time. And then when we got there, that's kind of what happened to us. And so we couldn't even go outside anymore. We had to kind of stay inside. So we were working on Commander Keen at that time, and during that last half of 1991, we basically saw that there was this computer called a Next computer that was created by Steve Jobs' company, and it looked really, really interesting. It was an amazing workstation, and we basically during December kind of finished Commander Keen. And we went on our 2-week vacation, but John Carmack didn't go on vacation. He's going to stay and program, especially he wanted to program a Next computer. So he ordered a Next computer COD, but he didn't have a car, and it's snowing and freezing. So that's John going through the snow to the bank to get to get the money for a COD. So when the guy shows up, he can pay him the $11,000, and then we finally got our Next computer, and that was in December of 1991. We started working on Wolfenstein 3D, and we really just kind of messed around with the Next. It wasn't until the summer, half a year later, we actually used the Next computer to do the hint manual for Wolfenstein and some Commander Keen brochures. So.
Yeah, it was worth a lot there for us.
But we were planning on using it later. It turned out to be a very important computer for our company. So right after Wolfenstein shipped, we were contacted by a company named Imagineer, and they wanted a Super Nintendo version of Wolfenstein. And so we were very excited about getting our game on a console. And so we hired a guy to start working on a contract because we got other games that we got to make. All right, so now it's November of 1992, and we had a year previous to this, November of 1991, actually shipped our I think it was our third FPS. It was our first texture map game called Catacomb 3D, and so it shipped a year before this time, but after this point we decided that we're going to make another FPS.
And surprisingly, to some people,
surprisingly, Doom was actually the 5th id Software FPS. Those are the other games that we had done that were shooters.
Originally, Hover Tank 1 was just colored walls that you kind of drove your tank through, and at that time it was kind of a harsh, creative environment to make an environment come alive in. So I would put a green cube, and that's a tree, essentially, in my mind, And Catacombs 3D actually had textures on the walls, and that gave it a lot more sense of space and a lot more fun, and you can cast your magic spells and blow things apart and stuff. And then the others you probably know.
Spear of Destiny is a sequel to Wolfenstein, by the way. So we basically start working on some of the tools for the next id FPS. We'll start working on Doom. Programmers in the audience might recognize the acronym WAD, which stands for Where's All the Data?
That's actually made after the fact. We were in a cheap apartment called La Prada, and Carmack was downstairs working on stuff, and we had used lumps in the previous games and stuff. And I was working upstairs doing the Doom Bible, and he called up and said, I need an extension, like, what's a bunch of lumps? And I said, WAD, or something. I said, yeah, that works, okay.
Wad of lumps.
So a lot of people started using that, and then the LucasArts or the
Yeah, and then Dark Forces later named their files gobs, so everyone was kind of coming up with another three-letter extension.
yeah.
And so after we were in these apartments and kind of putting together the file formats for Doom, it then finally moves to the Black Cube in Mesquite, which was just down the street from the apartment complex. And
thank you, Google, for providing a picture of Pound East Tower.
Yeah.
Which there's no other one on the internet.
Yeah. So we basically start thinking about, like, what is Doom going to be? What is this next game? Kind of, it started with the name. We played a lot of D&D at id for years before we started making Doom, and so we decided that this was going to be one of our, like, D&D inspired games. Carmack was really excited to do a game that had demons in it. And, we all agreed. Yeah. We just did Nazis, so demons
what
are like,
else
whatever.
Is evil? Oh, well.
What else is evil?
That was kind of easy,
So then
social games.
Tom starts working on the Doom Bible right after we move in, and then he finished it at the very end of November of 1992. And it was basically a whole kind of a design document for a lot of the game, a lot of the sketches of, like, where all the levels are in the game and the names of stuff.
Progressions you go through, lists all the tools, all that kind of stuff. I mean, you can look it up on the internet.
This is kind of part of the beginning of the design doc here to kind of say, like, what Doom is. And there were a lot of we were coming up with all these ideas for the technology of the game and, like, what it's going to be, and we felt, like, really sure before making the game what it probably was going to turn out to be like. Like, we knew what the technology advances were going to be. We had an idea that we were going to be doing some dark subject matter. It was going to be, like, not bright halls with Nazis in them, but, like, dark, scary, hallways.
I call it
lots of halls.
Scary, dark, fast. Is basically the game.
We made a lot of halls because of Tom's last name.
Yeah,
but,
it's a theme.
So part of the design was, Tom wanted to do like what we'd done in Wolfenstein, progression that was like level to level progression.
Yeah, like people really expected that from Wolfenstein, and I think that was not the place to innovate. Essentially, I think that was a really good. I can complete a chunk, and perhaps frustratingly complete a chunk, but I can, get there and boom, I have a success. And that was a good sense of accomplishment that was very important to this kind of game. And then John was thinking about the technology and what he could do with the tech, and he was like, he was starting to lay down some of the basic data structures, but he also was thinking big. So John wanted one big world. He just wanted, like, one big level. Everybody's going to run around the level. You could, like, see through doors, and then so then it was like, okay, it's one big level, and we're doing sort of science
fiction. Let's look at the data there.
Yeah, science fiction with demons and stuff like that. Well, let's make a big base, and then we'll have places to go and kind of sense of place and so on.
So we start calculating, how much memory are we going to use for this game?
Which they are doing. While I'm doing about a month of work on this big world and all these things and little nuances and
we're like calculating sprite sizes, map sizes.
And there's this cool like computer room and there's all these tunnels.
And we're like, there's no way that this is going to work. I mean, we don't have enough memory. We can barely
weird, dangerous slide.
We barely go above 1 megabyte.
The lava
right?
there. And like this,
so we're like,
and you recognize real
we have
places.
A new design.
And
hey,
demons
dude,
come out.
Like new design.
What?
We're going to just kind of do levels. So
that's funny. I remember something about that a month ago.
Yeah. So that was, not fun. So Tom was, not very happy about that.
I feel something snapping.
Yeah.
Wow.
Mentally.
Yeah. Like when we were in Wolfenstein, I had, since it was something that was not an elegant part of the engine, I had to really, really, really fight for push walls. But it's like, you're going to be walking through things, opening doors. You got to have some secrets. I'm like, I grew up, playing Mario and stuff like that. I want secrets, and so I really, really fought for push walls. Finally got in. It's exciting. So that was kind of like snap zero of like, why am I fighting for something that would make the game so fun? and then sort of like, what was that month of work that was lost? So, but in that sense, did you hear that? In that sense, I mean, Carmack was trying to get the best technology out there and what he could, the best way he can innovate, and I was trying to do the same, and just like that kind of clash heads a bit.
Yes. So now we'll focus on December. We're all working. We know that half the month is gone for vacations and stuff. Even though we're doing Doom and it's exciting, we're still human, and everybody should be taking vacation. Everybody.
Everybody, but
at Christmas.
Where people go.
So here's a picture of Tom with hair, and he's using.
Thanks everybody. I've lost my glasses. Well, I'll never see them. By the way, as advice to any of you, if you ever invent anything, just go get a patent on it, regardless, because
copyright.
Because at this time, I was at the desk and I was kind of, my wrists are kind of sore. So I had my girlfriend sew this 3 years before computer wrist pads came out. And that's kind of always been a long regret of mine. But
could have been rich.
Anyway, but
you can.
My wrists were happy. That's all that's important.
Anyone could see. Perhaps there's an Altic Lansing speaker on the right. This is all ancient technology. But the next computer was actually like a Mac right now. It's basically the same operating system that you're using right now with the
Mac over it,
with the Mac UI on top of it.
And thanks Pepsi for sponsoring this slide.
Yeah, the nice old calculator for some reason he was using that. So then we moved to January. January, we were beginning making the game, and there was, with us, these games never have pre-production where we draw a bunch of concepts and then kind of vet things. When we make something, it goes in the game. That's just the way it is. So we immediately start creating the technology, and we start creating the artwork, and we're very confident that what we're making is going to be pretty awesome. And so we put out a press release in January as we basically begin making the game, telling the world how revolutionary the game is going to be. and the press release had here's the big features that we had at the end of the press release, and each of these features in the real press release, which you can Google on the internet, has a whole bunch of explanation behind it, and probably 3 or 4 of those didn't even make it into the game. Don't do a press release before your game is actually out.
There was a gardening section that just really didn't fit.
Yeah, so. It was decades later. It was fun. Then we get into February. That's when we actually start making art. We were trying to do new things, so instead of just drawing pixels in Deluxe Paint and making the art that way, Adrian, who was a really amazing pure artist, he would draw the actual characters, and then he started making them in clay, modeling them in clay, and we had a next computer that had a video camera that was set up to capture the monsters as they were put on a lazy Susan that could rotate eighths. We had a post that would mark off eighths, and so we would take a kind of a picture of it and run it through a program called the
they said, what's the name? We're putting stuff in, and little separate things are coming out, pallets and stuff like that. Well, I just had Fuzzy Pumper Pallet Shop or something.
Yeah,
and that stuck. So
that was the name of the tool that we made to take these 16-bit images through a video camera and palletize them into VGA's 256 colors. The Fuzzy Pumper Pallet Shop. So Adrian only did a few of these clay models, and then that was it. There's no more. He's not doing that anymore. Because every time you can animate them, the clay just rips.
Because we had to light them, so when you light clay, then it goes. It's all over.
It was new and weird, so we kind of stopped doing that. We basically got the engine up and running pretty quickly, throughout January and then into just the very beginning of February. And we took some screenshots, and actually we made a bunch of alphas and stuff while we were making the game. And how many of you have actually seen Doom alphas? Not that many people. Cool. So you'll get to see them.
All those hands will be raised in about 2 minutes.
So we have the first level that Tom was working on. Actually got in the game as E2M7, but it was supposed to be like the first level in the game. But we had a different UI.
And that was the first crate maze ever made in the game. Thank you.
Yes.
But part of that was basically John was worried about like too many polys in the environment, because he wanted fast, and then really have a blazing fast game. So I kind of made crate maze and things like that were more orthogonal and a lot very occlusive. So it would be faster, and faster.
So we had, we were experimenting with UI. We had that's Tom's basic UI that he drew himself. And then the other one was it?
I'm available for art duties later.
Was there the other UI? Was it done by Adrian?
The second one is done by Adrian. Oh, no, I think I did most of that. He did the shell and I did the text.
Oh, okay.
This is my girlfriend's chainsaw. It's a Macaulay Eager Beaver. It's sitting, I used to be sitting on one of my arcade machines, but I sold it, so now it's sitting in my garage. And if you come over, you can go like that.
the Doom
but it's kind of drippy and stuff. It's an old chainsaw. It doesn't work anymore.
So you can see there's a power cable going to the video camera that was used to digitize the actual chainsaw. And so all the actual weapons that you saw in Doom were just toys that we bought at Toys R Us. And we just kind of held them in front of the video camera and took a snapshot. And we only had so many toys. I think it was like 3 or 4. So we just kind of took pieces and kind of slammed them together in Deluxe Paint and kind of edited them and stuff. So like the plasma gun and the BFG are kind of the same weapon toy.
Yeah. The lower res you are, the better art you can do. So it was fine for that time.
That's the
actual
shotgun.
Cap gun. Yeah.
It was a Dakota, the Tootsie Toy Dakota cap gun. We didn't actually play with these toys at work. We were just really busy working.
And at this time, basically, Carmack, really wanted efficient spaces. So he says, get books on military stuff. It's basically, give me cement buildings, bunkers, very, very squarish things and so on. It'll really run fast. It'll be very efficient, And I was like, okay. And then went over and looked at various things like this.
That were not very inspiring.
Yeah, they're kind of block. It's sort of like that movie. It's boxy but good. Well, it's not that great.
So Tom made a bunch of levels that were a bunch of cement blocks basically with some other textures put on it, and they weren't that fun to go into because it was like corridors with rooms that you kind of go into, and it might make sense when you're playing a game where hey, demons have taken over a military base, so make it look like a military base and have demons sitting in the rooms, but flow-wise, it just was no fun. It was bizarro, so it wasn't that cool. But we actually made we kind of made a demo, our first pre-alpha of the game, and that's what we have here. Hopefully, it'll play correctly.
The lens flare rendering that we did back then was great.
Yeah, lens flare
over
awesome.
The text.
So yes, Evil Unleashed was our subtitle back then. And so this was basically the first level that we made using the data structures we created and DoomEd, which was the tool that I wrote to create the levels. And you can see the second gen UI there with like automap in the top right, and this was the first time the monsters were rotating in the engine. Yeah,
and again, the interface was made sort of larger, so there'd be less actual screen real estate to render. Again, it was a sort of performance thing. It's going to be faster if there's, like sort of 60, 70% of the screen to render.
But it doesn't look that cool when most of your screen is taken up with a bunch of UI crap.
It's kind of like old school, like a game like the System Shock or something, where it's important to have an interface around you because you're physically doing things like that. But here you're just like it's in a raw environment and it doesn't really.
Yeah, I want to see his head, So we had the UI there. We could actually put a UI in the game. See, it's not working too well. Take it out.
And there were items at this time. If you notice on the screen, I believe there's a sandwich, both a sandwich and a Heart of Lothar on the same screen.
There were a lot of, like the captain's hand was a key to a door, and so there's a lot of esoteric kind of items.
More like adventure-y kind of things, since it was one large world originally.
Yep. Let's see, is this the same? For some reason, it's doing the same thing. Okay. Yes, March. Finally get past February. In March,
Strange thing happened.
in March, something interesting happened while we're making the game. So 20th Century Fox contacted us because we did Wolfenstein, which was a pretty fast game, and they thought that we would be the right team to make Aliens the game. And so we already have a technology running, you know, we're ready to start running with Doom, and they kind of stop us because we all love Aliens.
Yeah, especially Adrian.
Yeah, especially Adrian. So, you know, the shapes of the monsters. You know, we had Giger books all over the place in the art room. So
the bathroom, you know. Just
yeah, totally.
I don't know what that means, but
we talked about it for half an hour. That's about it. It was like, hey guys, here's a really awesome opportunity. We talked about it, and we're like, you know what? I don't want to give up creative control on this game. You know, this could be something that's like really original. But we do like the idea of running away from, you know, we were talking about demons already, so it's like, well, it'll be kind of, you know, alien-ish.
sci-fi with demons. The mix of science and sort of mythos and stuff like that, it was one of the true powerful things, the juxtaposition of that.
Yeah, if you're in space, you kind of expect fighting aliens, but you don't expect fighting hell. So that was,
you know,
that was something we thought was going to be cool. So we decided, let's not do the aliens attacking the Space Marine. Let's do the hell demons attacking the Space Marine. That'd be more original. It was back then.
Really?
So then we start doing, I'm working on this level, which is the second level of the game, E1M2, and you can see the horrible, you know, that wall texture with the brown crap on it and the red stripe. But I was like having to explore, like forget the cement square, you know, rooms with the, you know, the hallways at 90 degrees and stuff. I wanted shapes that were more interesting. And you can see these are like real kind of early textures, but I was trying to make you know, a level that didn't feel realistic, but you could still kind of identify it as a place that might be military base, you know, because you're kind of at a science station on a moon. So I wanted it to be more interesting to explore. So that's where I started to play around with lots of contrast in room heights and contrast in lighting, and because the engine does you know, really great lighting. In fact, on this slide, this engine, the Doom engine, did something that I don't know many other engines do. I think the Build engine did it, but it does what's called diminished lighting, where the light gets darker automatically through the engine as it tries to render off into the distance, which means that you have a game that's just automatically scary. You don't even have to really try. You just kind of just draw some stuff, make the light a little bit, you know, medium, and it's just dark in the distance, and you can have like a really bright light in the background to create silhouettes of stuff. So the Doom engine was really amazing for creating scary spaces because it just made it scary automatically.
And then
I made this room, which I don't think to you guys is very impressive looking, but back then this was the room that really changed the look of the game, because this was before all that other stuff that you saw. This was really like the room that showed, hey, we can have like high ceilings with, you know, banks of computers up, you know, higher than the player, and show like a real, you know, how high can this get? What kind of scale can I get in this game? This was almost one of these. We're kind of defining the possible scale of the game, and this is one way that we're doing it through this room.
Yeah, it's a very important difference in that most games, which is kind of where we started, are doing a very functional, I could be here in this space, there's a console that I could use kind of thing, where this was kind of an abstraction or a different, almost a artistic choice to just elevate and make things grow and be huge and big and different. And that was like, this room is like the start of something like very large that really defined Doom, and that was brilliant by John.
Yeah, just the abstract level design instead of trying to be realistic is really what this room started.
Yeah.
And so we basically, everybody loved it. The artists came in and were like, that's it, man. So that's it. The game is, the level design is set. You know, basically we're going to be doing the abstract stuff. But then disaster struck. What happened? We all had to stop working on Doom.
Yeah.
It's so drama-filled, this whole game.
The finale of Days of Our Lives.
Yeah. the Super Nintendo version that we had gotten a guy to work on was not finished, and Imagineer was not pleased. It had been, since I think the summertime, so it'd been like about 9 months, and they hadn't heard anything from us, and we're like, oh, what? That guy was working on the port, and we couldn't get a hold of the guy, and like it was a nightmare situation because we couldn't get it done basically with somebody else, and so basically we stopped working on Doom right in the middle kind of, and basically ported Wolfenstein to the Super Nintendo. And so the whole team jumped on it. Artists jumped on art, just like stop Doom.
I have a programming degree, and like I've been doing design for a long time, but I pulled that out and like did the bonus screen where all the junk bounces around on the screen at the end. It's just everybody's like, help! We
got to get done with this thing. We got to get back on Doom. We wanted to ship at Christmas, so we all jumped on it, and it took us like 3 weeks to just blast out the port. And that's including all of the, put rats in there and green blood and all of,
Yeah,
that
for
stuff.
some reason, Nintendo didn't like swastikas and Hitler and stuff like that, so you fought the Meisterstadt.
Yes.
Whatever, we had to get it out.
Stuff. So then, we could kind of get back to it. Work on Doom. Started again after that 3 week, like, what the hell? And then I was working on that E1M2 level, and I made this thing here, which is like it looks kind of innocent. It's these stairs that kind of go down, but the way that the code was structured, it caused a recursion problem when John was traversing his sector list internal data structure. It slowed the game way down because it was looking into something that had to go in and out of a list recursively, and the game super started chugging, and he liked the way that the game was starting to look, so he wanted to fix the problem instead of, hey, just draw a bunch of blocks.
Yeah, so that was the cool moment there, because like I sat there, was given constraints and said, I'll do the best I can with these sort of blockish things. And John just said, hey, this looks cool. Screw you, make your tech cool.
Yeah, fix the engine, dude. This is really cool looking.
That's the great part of the tension of a team of great people is that the ability to do that.
So the way that he was storing the sectors internally and traversing through them wasn't any kind of rocket science or anything, but that's kind of why we hit this problem with this area of the level. So basically, John had to fix the problem, and so he started reading up, and then the BSP tree was born. This was based off of work by a guy in the audience here named Bruce Naylor, and he had researched this for I think it was backface culling off of 3D models, and John had read a white paper on it and decided, hey, I could use that, into basically that culling algorithm to cull out non-visible sectors inside of a level. So he adapted that algorithm into the engine, and it was instantaneous. It's
awesome.
Super fast, and that
was great. So John Carmack was impressed, about like this looks really cool, and he could see that, and that's what led him to technology.
Yeah,
so.
and that was great because the whole industry has been using BSPs now for a very long time, a couple decades, I think, since then, almost. So then we get to April, and we work on another alpha. We kind of get another alpha out there. This is like some of the text. I don't know if you guys can read it, but this is some of the text out of the README file that we always put in all of our deliverables that we kind of send out. And these were just sent out to like beta testers that we've known for years. So it's just a few people that we sent these to. But we kind of reached what we felt was an alpha milestone.
People called like football or push wall and fruit basket.
Yeah, actually, that's the name of some of the
Two
testers. So we're using a DOS extender to take advantage of 4 megabytes of memory, so we're not limited to the lower 640K. And down at the bottom left, you can see the little 2 dots. That's kind of our frame rate counter down at the bottom, since we didn't want to put a big number on the screen. Hey man, if this gets out, you can all kiss your autographed Doom
hint books goodbye.
So you can explain the menus.
So this room was a little more sort of a story-based thing. When, like, Doom was a great game with sort of, things jumping out at you and just pure, raw experience, which was brilliant about it. At this point, my thought about it was, hey, there's, speaking of aliens, what Jim Cameron did that was so great is he showed you just at the start of the movie, there's all these people's transponders in this one place over there. And your journey is towards that, so you have a deeper and deeper and deeper sense of dread as you head to it. And so that was the very, very small, simple story I was trying to inject on there, is just that sense of deeper dread underneath the scary sort of experience. But as you know, it's kind of boxy right now in this version.
Yeah, this is one of the early boxy, hey, do military boxy room kind of stuff. And that's why you can see it's...
Yeah, and at that time we had to, we're trying to find a texture style and stuff, so the silvery cool one was like kind of realistic looking. It was kind of a really interesting...
More spacey.
Yeah, more spacey and kind of cool and the stone and stuff, so we kind of stuck with what was okay to do.
This was E1M7, and there might be some people out there that have played E1M7 a million times. This is like the really early version of E1M7. So if you play the level a lot, you totally know where you're at in here, but how different it is from the actual release game. This is a lot of still using these limited amount of textures. We didn't have that many textures back then because we kind of were dumping a lot of effort into the modeling and the texturing, or the characters having to basically do pixel editing of the characters, cleaning up all the frames, and that was a lot of work to clean those guys up.
And it's the weekend here, so there's none of the demons are there. Taking some time off, knocking one back.
That's the end of E1M2, or that's E1M6. A lot of you can see I was playing around here with actually I did all the programming of everything that happens in the environment in the game. So all the flashing lights, the stairs, the platforms, the switches, all that stuff. I was coding all of that and testing it in my levels. So while I'm making the levels, I'm testing the functionality of the levels at the same time with the cool features like, hey, it'd be cool if this, there's some lockers. It'd be really cool. There's some demons in the shower here. That's what that's supposed to be.
You get dirty, killing and maiming and all that stuff. Consigning souls to hell and all that stuff. But, at this point, I'm very glad he was doing some of the gameplay stuff right now, because sometimes it's difficult to get gameplay stuff in sort of a technical focused company. So I really wanted teleporters in the game. Teleporters were my new push wall. So I stole one of Adrian's graphics, and I colorized it red, and I then stole his metal texture and put bands around it, and I said, here, can you make this teleport to another one of these somewhere else in the level? Yeah. And it's like, okay. So that was awesome. I was like, I'm free. I can go over here and do special rooms and all. It was nice to be able to do that. So it was non-snappy.
Yeah. This was basically E1M2. And I think that's probably the end of that video. We had little signs and stuff in there that these are real early signs that don't exist
just
in the finished game.
Programmer art or designer or whatever.
It was programmer art. Dark Hall. There's the exit.
Why Q?
That's basically everyone that was in the company at that time. At the very bottom there. So it was a pretty small team, and then we get to May of 1993, and so we put out another pre-beta. I don't think that this is maybe a minute, but we're improving the game. We're making new builds. It's funny that they're not out all over the place, so it's good to get the video here. So we were like, this is getting more real. We got a lot more textures in this. You can see the UI at the bottom is totally changed up. We're just playing around with new things.
We have a font.
Now there's a menu system and so we took some those little markers on the side there are kind of taken from Wolfenstein. But we basically are trying to kind of fill out the menu system so we can program some stuff in there. Some more functionality, so we don't have to put command line parameters to enable functionality. We got our skill levels in there because we need to put stuff in the levels. Like while we're making the levels, we got to be able to put monsters of varying difficulty in there. So like now we're getting more just kind of more of the game actually going. So yeah, you can see they just disappear now. But hey, you can shoot them.
Pop.
You can shoot the demons. They disappear. Not fun, but at least it's working. And I think this was pretty much the whole thing, this little bitty level. But it gave us a lot more textures, some shooting, new UI, menu system. So we're kind of dumping a whole bunch of stuff in there with there's just two of us programming at that time, just me and John. But the artists are doing a lot of work redoing, the bullet clips and the armor and, the artifacts that you pick up. Because in the game, you actually were picking up a lot of artifacts. It was keeping track of items that you picked up, even all the way until October. Eventually decided that was not going to be a fun thing to do, picking up all these items. We were doing that in Wolfenstein, but it wasn't something that kind of fit inside this game. And there's, I think that's Tom's.
Yeah, you think that? I think that Adrian did that. I'm pretty sure. That sort of speaks sort of to the original one world design being like turned into like map that you go through.
Yes, we were at June. In June, I think Jay had talked to Computer Gaming World, which was the really cool magazine back there for PC games. And so a guy named Chris Lombardi came out, and he did a preview of Doom. It was a 2-pager. This is just one of them. And he did a really great job on this preview, sneak peek. And so they actually, in this issue of CGW, they did 2 previews. One was called Companions of Xanth, and one was Doom. And they got Companions of Xanth on the cover, with a kind of a mention of Doom on it. So that was really cool that we actually got ourselves mentioned on the cover of a magazine, finally. The first time that we actually got any kind of press was, I think, on the phone after Wolfenstein. We did like a radio interview with somebody, and so that was really exciting.
And random.
Yeah, and so it was cool to see, the first time that Doom was in something. We're right in the middle of development. So now July hits.
Yeah, and at this time, you notice Doom has a lot of variety in monsters. At this time, like a month before, there was nothing flying. There was a bunch of going, and shooting stuff at you, throwing stuff at you, coming and destroying you and stuff like that. And again, it was sort of a fight to say, there needs to be something flying. I realize, this is fake 3D and stuff, but there needs to be something flying, something that can come down at me, something that doesn't have to be on the same path that I am, something that can come up and, scare the crap out of you. And finally, after a lot of effort, then finally we got the flying skulls and things like that. So.
But it was kind of a fight.
Yeah. And that kind of led to another little snap in my happiness, like trying to, this should be obvious, why can't we just, do this and that's cool. So, anyways, so at that time, there's like id and there's me and there's a circle of, people having fun and really loving what they do and talking to each other, and I'm kind of like isolated and alone like the sad clown.
So yeah, Tom wanted more creativity. Things were getting optimized out of the design, and so we kind of felt that Tom's vision was kind of too much for what we were trying to boil the game down to, which is pure speed, demons, keys, doors.
Since it's scary, dark, fast, things like I wanted were like environment dangers, things that were different from a bunch of hallways and green slime and stuff like that. And in the end, it was just like, well, like it's difficult to be. The thing was a pure thing, and it's difficult to be on the 5th version of the same thing, and it seems they've done a few more of those. That you just want to, get your creative yayas out, and so I think
he was kind of ahead of the design game, where we're trying to
considering
mass popularize that.
Considering I was making trees out of like green blocks, I was kind of like, and I was ready to explode.
So then we get to August, and so then Tom leaves.
We depart. We parted ways, and we sort of had a meeting and just like parted ways. And after the meeting, I felt a deep sense of relief, because this thing is like just sort of been eating at me and been unhappy and not getting my creative juices out. And that led me to the realization that all of us wanted was creative happiness. Creative happiness always wins, and it will make things sort out. So Carmack wanted his technical creative happiness and to do what he wanted to do. John had found in creative happiness, he's getting to do a lot more design, that he's brilliant at, instead of just like being hampered by tools and stuff like that. And this allowed me to get out. Unfortunately, I kind of did Rise of Triad, which a number of people like, but it was sort of like Wolfenstein 1.5, and I'm really proud of the deathmatch. The deathmatch has incredible, like, crazy things going on, drunk missiles, and flame walls and stuff. And actually, there's an inside story. The God mode of Rise of the Triad is actually something John did while no-clipping through walls in Wolfenstein. Because he would sit there and he'd turn no-clip on to like go look at a different room or something, and then he'd just kind of go, ooh, like I am moving through walls, I will destroy you all. So that kind of turned into God mode, and they're like, ooh, I will destroy you. Kind of an inside joke. But the thing I want to get, the point I want to make about that though is, did Rise of the Triad, but then eventually years later, I did get my creative yayas completely out with Anachronox, which is a space game which had characters, which really had a really sense of space, and I'm really proud of the writing and the experience of that. So
yeah, Tom actually was developing Prey after Rise of the Triad, and he left 3D Realms. They kind of renamed themselves.
Yeah.
He left 3D Realms while he was on Prey to help start up Ion Storm so he could make Anachronox, his giant RPG.
Yeah, Prey was an interesting project. I had sort of a interesting thing that kind of showed up a little bit in Anachronox, but it's a series of combined classes, that each kind of contribute to each other. There's 3 primaries and two that add to each other. And but that just wasn't creatively working out, and the team wasn't really happy with it either, the way things were going. The one thing that I do like that is in Prey is grab paths, so you can just walk up the wall. I had the very perfect image originally in Prey of being able to go like this and throw a grenade and have it bounce on the ceiling like that and wait for somebody to like that. So it would be a great deathmatch kind of thing. Anyway.
So then,
Anachronox.
So then Tom goes and eventually he does Anachronox, but during this time, Tom's gone. Tom was creative director, and he was on the project for 10 months, and now there's a void, and so we need to hire some other people, because I'm not going to finish doing all the levels myself, because I still had programming to do in the game and everything else.
But I just wanted to say one more thing, and that, can you stand over here? All right. Point your mic at me. I just wanted to say that I am proud to have worked on Doom, and after 18 some years, I can wear this shirt and say that, I wrote it. Yeah, that'll be $20 for another shirt to come off, if you know what I'm saying.
We actually made Wolfenstein shirts that way as well. So Wolfenstein 3D wrote it, and then we did a bunch of the Doom ones while we were making the game. It's pretty funny. So
yeah. Actually, we came up with. I think I did the wrote it shirts, and then I did the Go to Hell ad, and then like Apple did these really simple couple word ads. I think they stole it from me personally. But.
Oh yeah. Okay, so now we have to hire some new people, right? So we just hired 2 more people to replace Tom. Dave Taylor, everybody knows Dave, hopefully, and then the legendary Sandy Peterson, who was working with Chaosium on Call of Cthulhu and a bunch of other stuff. So he was a well-known designer back then. So then these guys jump on the game. Sandy is taking over Tom's design work. Dave is doing a lot of programming for us to get the game out. We get into September. We're making a lot of progress on the auto map. Lots of levels are getting done in the style of game levels back then. and we get the DMX sound drivers. We didn't have enough bandwidth to do the sound drivers ourselves, so we actually had a guy named Paul Radek. He wrote the sound drivers that he was licensing out, so Dave got those hooked into the game, so we could actually get sound effects and everything. In October, we finally get another build of the game. It's a pre-release, and it's getting close. You know, we're only, I think, 2 months away from release at this point. So the game's looking better. You can see way more textures in it. The lighting's better. We had a lot more time to make more of an environment in this game. So this doesn't have the sound effects in it because it would be annoying. But you can see how much more work's been done to that really simple level, and it does take a lot of time when you're making levels to just keep going over and over the same area and refining your texture alignment and your lighting and your effects and your placement and everything that you're trying to do in these things. Making a great level requires a ton of iteration and a ton of play. You need to play your own level, and so I played these things a lot. And this isn't even the final version of it because there's no lift there in the final game. You can see that even the sky is different. That's like trying to be realistic. It looks like you're on Phobos and there's space above the mountains, which sure space would be black like that, but it doesn't look that good. You know, a black void like that doesn't feel as good as something that has more light. So we kind of made it. We changed the final sky to actually be light colored, so the level actually felt a lot better.
Yeah, if you put like stars in there, they would kind of alias or something with a.
Yeah, they would drop out and kind of look samply. You can see that we're picking up items, we're keeping track of items, and next to the Doom guy's head we have the lives. So we still had those kind of things in the game. Even at the intermission screen, it was keeping track of, your rewards for items that you picked up and stuff. But I basically just didn't think that I felt like this is a pretty modern game. Let's get rid of the things that arcade games had in them. So I didn't like the idea that you would have to have lives and like you could end the game and kind of get really mad because you tried really hard to get through like E2 M5 or something. So I got rid of the idea of lives, and if you get killed, you just go back to the beginning of the level infinitely, as much as you want. And we have a save load feature in the game where you can save it at any second while you're playing it and reload it instantly. So it would be, there's a high probability that players will be able to actually finish the game and get through it. So you can see here, walking through E1 M2, how much different it is. You can see that these fireballs from these guys is still, I think it's Tom's art.
Yeah.
The fireballs that they're throwing is old. But at least you can see the game getting more done. And really, the next step past this point was the final game. It was just the next revision of all of these little layers of graphics and level design and menu systems and stuff like that. So you can see, actually had to run a TSR program called Fake Date to allow me to record the demo because we had a time-locked press release version that we sent out. So, it's hard to say. I don't think you can set the date manually inside of DOSBox. So going forward, November was like, okay, we're at the very end. We got to hurry up and get this game done. So we were all doing final polish work on it. So a lot got done. The first IPX multiplayer in the game was created, like a fast shooter game. The word deathmatch is created. Came up with that just while I was thinking about, what kind of mode that would be. We put co-op in there because it just seemed obvious that you'd want to go through the game together with friends. We finished all of the extra 10% of the game that it takes to really make it feel polished. And then we got, modems working, and all the game maps were modified to handle all the game modes that we had with all the difficulty levels and everything. So it was really just tons of polish at the very, very end. And we were spending more and more time at the office. The Usenet was going crazy because everybody knew the game was coming out for a whole year, so they were inventing all kinds of stories and new games based off of cheat codes that we had, and it was actually the internet created some cheat codes, so it was just like really furious at the very end. That last November, December was pretty crazy. And then basically that was December 10th is the day that we are putting the game up on the net. We had a 30-hour stretch at the very end of no sleep, 30 hours, everybody just running the game on every machine. We had a last-minute bug that was like, it was a really crazy bug that only if you knew everything about the technology would you know how to debug. But basically, the game runs on a timer, so even in the future with 50 gigahertz processors, this game will always run at the correct speed. But in doing that, using the timer at a low level, interrupt level, basically if the timer starts at some crazy random value when the game starts, there's a possibility that it could hit 0, and at that point the game just locks up. So we sometimes saw the game running on a bunch of machines and would just randomly lock up for no reason at all. And only Carmack could figure out that it was the timer code that was wrapping when that happened. So fix that bug, and then it never, that was just like during that last time fixing that bug, and it was the last thing that we had in the game. So,
and ironically, Doom is uploaded to my college computers, University of Wisconsin.
To upload the game to the college, University of Wisconsin's FTP server, and everyone was waiting for it. So we had to, we had to try and get in there, get a slot in there to do an upload, which is what we did. And so, we were using a modem and putting the game up, and
totally couldn't hear.
And it blew up the whole server. And then we had to get on the phone with the sysop of the FTP server, and then we had to have him kick everybody off, and then we had to slot in again because we had hundreds of people trying to get onto the server to get the game, and we couldn't even get the game up on the server because they're sitting there. And then it blew up again. So the second time the game blew up, and then basically had to tell him to just lock everybody off so we could just upload it. And so he did that.
And now Bucky's happy.
And then the game was uploaded to the world and made its way across all the BBSs, and everybody knows the rest of the story. We went on to make Doom 2 and Quake,
and weirdly, level 10 of Doom 2 was mine.
We kept some of Tom's levels.
I actually got it and was just playing, and it was like, what the diamonds? What that? It was a funny moment.
Anyway. Yep. So that's it. That's the story of how we made Doom. Thanks, everyone. We can do questions.
First of all, I would like it to. This is an odd job, and really like to thank everybody that gets the games and downloads them, because you're just kind of sitting in a room doing this thing because you like to play it. It's like I want to play that thing, and then all of a sudden, oh, this is really great. It's like, okay, nice to meet you. I don't know how this happened, but it's kind of cool.
So questions? Anybody has questions? It'd be great to hit a microphone so everyone can hear it.
So to me, one of the sort of most interesting dynamics in Doom was the variety and sort of enemy attacks, and just sort of the timings of them and so on. I was curious as to kind of where along the process, or how much did they come out the way you'd planned, or was there a lot of change throughout in terms of fireball speeds and enemy run speeds and shotgun timing and whatnot?
Everything in the game was totally iterated on heavily. We had we made really best first guesses. The game frame rate, the rendering rate was locked at 35 frames a second, even though it could probably go 70. We made it 35, so the rest of the game would run evenly on more systems, and that and we ran the internal AI at 10 frames a second, so we would have a good speed for the enemies. We don't want them coming too fast because it's just not very fair or fun. So we put first guess values in for everything, the damage, how the damage scales on weapons, the weapon firing rates, how much per second damage that could possibly be, to try and perfectly balance all the weapons. So, what you were having to decide was, if something's really far away, you want to use not the shotgun. And if something is big, you want to use the rocket launcher, and stuff that's really far away, use the pistol or the chain gun. So we did a ton of balancing on that to try and kind of even out the damages and the times that they would fire. And I'd have to say it just felt perfect. Even years later when we played deathmatch in other games and come back to it, we got really lucky balancing all the damage.
Thank you.
I can't see you over there. I guess there's a hand over there.
Hi. Hi there. So now that the game has been finished for a while and ported for a lot of systems, do you guys go back and think that there was any element that you want to change? And also, which port do you think is the best and the best representation of the game?
I don't have anything that I want to change other than, I would go over the levels probably and just do some more polish on the levels. But they feel great, and I think the game is. I really don't have any I don't look back at it and go, oh man, that was really messed up. Like with Quake, there was some damages with the rocket launcher I would probably change, but with Doom it just seemed right.
Him?
I guess I got one more
minute.
question. Yeah.
Hello, I'm Carlos. First of all, thanks for coming. I recently read Masters of Doom, and it reminded me of kind of like when I was growing up, like the image that people had of John Romero, someone that was very excited, very passionate about what he was doing. One of the things that I thought about was how you guys always wanted to make the best games around you. You wanted to compete with the greatest, and you wanted to break new ground and make use Carmack's technology and apply it in design in ways that nobody had seen before. And you then, when you disagree with, I think I saw a YouTube interview with Matt, Matt Chat.
Matt Chat, yeah.
Yeah, where you say you disagree with some of the decisions that were made in Quake, and you ended up, doing your own thing, and you still wanted to, make your own, great first-person shooter and your vision of it.
Right.
So as a creator, what made you transition from, that passion towards, say, AAA games, towards a different focus now towards the, say, social space?
Well, I played deathmatch constantly for years and loved deathmatch. Deathmatch is one of the most fun ways to play a game for me. But nowadays, going into the latest games, they don't feel the same way. I feel like I'm going slower through the world, and I really like the Doom and Quake speeds of player run. It felt like they're more skill based than than just aiming at somebody with a railgun. Not as much fun for me. And as a designer, it's way more challenging to make a game that hundreds of millions of people will like say social games. It's much more of a challenge to try and get back to what the roots of what's fun and to make it palatable to way more people. So I still have some really great ideas for some shooters that I'd like to make, but right now, we've both moved through a lot of different kinds of designs in our careers, and it's fun to touch a lot of different areas.
Well, I think John's genius is seeing the next thing, and perhaps the timing has been off occasionally, but when Carmack and I made a joke first level of Super Mario and left it on John's desk, he closed the door when we came in after crashing and stuff, and he says, "We are out of here." He knew it. They said, "This is it. We're out of here. Boom! This is a success."
Scrolling.
And with the tile scrolling stuff. And when we did Monkey Stone together, it was a very early cell thing. The cell carriers didn't really have it together as far as games, but that's the biggest thing now is mobile games and stuff. So it's brilliant, a little early on that one, and now it's striking the forefront again with social games and sharing it with Brenda, the brilliant Brenda.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks. I think that's it for questions because we have to run to another talk.
Yes.
Thanks, everybody.